We're back. We're going to start the Women in Engineering panel right now. So we're so glad to have you here and learn a little bit more about what the community at UBC Engineering is like, especially for our women students. I will go to Katrijn first. If you want to introduce yourself, let us know your name, your pronouns, your program, your year level, and kind of a little bit more that students here watching can learn about you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Katrijn. I go by pronouns she, her, and I'm a fourth year geological engineering student. And I think something to know about me is, I was also interested in earth and ocean sciences coming in, had to choose between that and geological or just engineering in general. And I love UBC Campus because I think the walks and meeting classes are really nice. And if you're just having, a tough time, you can just go for a nice walk and clear your head. And it's a beautiful campus.
So Anna, I'll get you to introduce yourself next, please.
Okay. Can you hear me all right? Is my audio
I can, yes.
So far? Perfect. I'm Anna. I go by she, her as well. I'm at the UBC Okanagan campus, and I'm kind of in between my third and fourth year of mechanical engineering. I actually initially went into electrical and then switched after my second year. So I have a tiny bit of experience in that as well. I have worked with the Women in Engineering Club as well as the UBCO Concrete Toboggan team, which has been really fun. And Innovate, Design, and Sustain, which is the new sustainability design club here at UBCO, which has all been really great. I think my favorite thing about campus, specifically the UBC Okanagan campus, is just how much of a little community it feels like. One of my favorite things is if I need a study break, I can just go for a walk through campus, and the likelihood of running into someone is pretty high, and you can just have a chat and just go see a friend for a little bit if you need a break from studying. So I think that's my favorite thing about campus right now.
Awesome. And Sydney, I'll get you to go next.
Hi, my name is Sydney. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in my third year in civil engineering, and I'm also at the Okanagan campus. I'd say one of my favorite things about UBCO is how collaborative the community is. I find with any of my classes, if I'm having difficulty, everyone's really welcoming to help out. It's not super competitive. Everyone's really helpful. And if I ever need help, it's easy to just find other people to help out and work together on everything.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we have a couple of questions to ask the whole panel, and then we'll open it up to the Q&A. So in the stage Q&A, I've just cleared out any of the questions that were remaining in there from the earlier presentation. So please feel free to ask any questions for the panelists in there. And you can also upvote each other's questions, and we'll answer by kind of most popular when we get to that point. So starting with Katrijn again, how did you know that engineering was right for you? And can you tell us what actually led you to choose UBC Engineering?
Right. So I had always been super interested in math and science, so STEM kind of focused subjects. And I was really considering going into an earth and ocean science-based science degree or engineering. And I wasn't exactly sure on what to do. I wasn't sure what type of engineering was most interesting to me. And the most notable ones obviously are mechanical and electrical. And I didn't know if those were exactly for me. But I decided I like challenges as well. I like solving problems. And those are big features of engineering. So I decided to push myself, see if I could get into engineering at UBC and give it a year, try it out, do the first introductory year if I got accepted. And luckily I did. So I gave that a shot, ended up really liking it, discovered that there's the geological program, which lucky for me also has a lot of earth adjacent science components to it. But when it came to deciding the UBC campus, I had always been most interested in that one. And I come from central Canada, Manitoba originally. So people would be questioning how did you find out about UBC? But I just had a family friend who went there, and I saw pictures of the campus, and I kind of just fell in love with it. And when I found out it was one of the top ranked ones, I was like, well, why wouldn't I want to go here? So I went and checked it out and fell in love with the campus in person as well. So I think it was a pretty natural decision for me. It was kind of the more I learned about it, the more I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. But, as with everyone, you kind of have your hesitations. And I just think the more I learned about it, the more I was confident in choosing UBC engineering.
Awesome. Thank you. And Sydney, I'll have you go next. If you can answer the same question about, again, how did you know that engineering was right for you, and what led you to choose UBC engineering at the Okanagan campus?
Yeah, for me, I grew up really loving math. In high school, I had a really great physics teacher, and physics was my favorite class. I just loved all the problem solving elements in it. As well, my dad owned a tire shop in our backyard growing up. So I always grew up working with my hands and working out in the shop with him. So it's just kind of a natural move because that was just something I loved. Oddly enough, I've always wanted to work a job where I get to wear a hard hat, which I got to do during the co-op program this summer. And specifically, when I was choosing UBCO, I graduated high school in 2020. So I had difficulty choosing universities because I didn't get to go anywhere to visit because lockdown happened. And I was kind of in between some schools, seeking some on the East Coast. I was considering UBC Van, and I was kind of worried about how big they might be because I'm also from Manitoba, from a very small town. So I was kind of worried about how well I'd be able to handle a big city. And as I was looking into that, I found out there was the campus in Kelowna, and I just looked at it, and it was small, and it was smaller class sizes. It was in a really nice, very beautiful location, and it just kind of fit into every single box that I was looking for. And I'm very happy with my decision. It's really pretty here, and there's lots of apples. So I'm very happy.
Excellent. Thank you. And Anna Claire, I'll have you go next to give us the same sort of information about you.
Yeah, so pretty much just like the previous two said, I really enjoyed math and science in high school and everything, especially math. I was really into that. But I was also really interested in like design and that kind of aspect as well. Like part of me really wanted to go into the arts just so I could do something more like creative and like deal with the design process more. And I didn't really know what engineering was. And then someone described it as being able to combine the creative parts of arts with like the really technical sides of math and science. And as soon as someone said that to me, I was just like, yeah, I have to try engineering, definitely. Because I really wanted something that could combine those two. And I think that was a really, really good description of it, because that's definitely been my experience so far. And then as for choosing the UBC Okanagan campus, I actually am from the Okanagan originally. And I was considering going to the Vancouver campus just because I'd done research into UBC in general, and it looked like such a good school. And I wanted to stay in BC just because I wanted to be close to my family. But part of me wanted to go to the big city instead. But just as Sydney said, I started looking more at how like there's some smaller classes and everything here. And I really liked the idea of being at a smaller campus. I still really think that the UBC Vancouver campus is amazing. But I am happy with being at the smaller campus as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So Danby is going to jump into the Q&A and start answering some questions via text. We just couldn't get her microphone working properly for you. So she's actually going to be in there answering some questions for you. So keep asking your questions. We'll answer some of them shortly, but also Danby might be answering some of them too. So my last question that I have prepared for our panelists is if you can just talk a little bit more about what it's like to be a woman in engineering and sharing your experience about that. So at UBC, we have about 30% women in our first year program. And that's something that we've mentioned that we're definitely trying to grow because we want to make sure that we have diverse teams, and diverse teams are going to ensure that those teams have really great perspectives and that we're going to solve problems for the entire world's population, not just part of it. So really just highlighting kind of what it's like to be a woman in engineering. Was there anything you were scared of coming in from high school that you weren't sure what it was going to be like that you can share with the students watching right now? So Katrijn, I'll get you to go first again.
Yeah, so I was definitely worried that I would be like the only girl in like everything. I can confidently say that's not the issue. You know, obviously there's more men than there is women in your classes, but luckily there is other women in there with you. And I think the biggest thing I've noticed and the thing I'm most happy about is just the amount of support that we give each other. Like, a woman, we support each other. You also have significant, if not all of the male students also supporting us and trying to accommodate the fact that, we might be a little uncomfortable or intimidated at first. And also the admin, in my experience, have been super supportive. If you unfortunately do have like a circumstance in which you're uncomfortable, if you just go talk to a prof or a TA or admin, they're extremely supportive and on your side and accommodating of your needs. And I think that has been, one of the best experiences throughout my undergrad degree, is just not feeling scared to talk about any issues, but also being able to voice, my thankfulness for how wonderful the experience has been as a woman in engineering. It's funny, sometimes you will be in a group and you just look around and you're like, wait a minute, I'm in a group with 5 guys and it's just me. But luckily in that case, they're usually extra supportive, and you have your female student friends and all this stuff, and the TAs are super wonderful. I think it's nothing to be scared about or worried about, in my opinion, or in my personal experience. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And I don't know who wants to go next. Anna, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I'll echo a lot of what Katrijn said. There's definitely almost like an instant bond, I think, between other women in engineering. It's kind of just instant friends, I've found. As soon as you see the other women in the class, you're just yeah, of course we're going to be best friends. And that's always been great. And I've found even on my co-op terms, it's been the same. The co-op position that I had over the summer, a new woman started at the office, a full-time worker. And we instantly connected. And she was so excited to have another woman at the office. And even this office, it was a pretty good split too. But I found even in the professional world, it's just so nice to have that network to rely on. And there's just so much support from other women in engineering, which is great. And yeah, I haven't had problems with the men in the program either. I think it's been a really good experience.
Awesome. And Sydney?
Yeah, I mean, you guys summed it up really well. I'd say it's the camaraderie that you find that really is what's so special about being a woman in engineering. I'll go into class and if I don't know anyone, I can just go find one of the girls to sit next to, and instantly I'm talking to them. Oh, it turns out they know this person and this person. That turns out we've all been connected all along. And I know Claire and I were actually co-presidents currently of the Women in Engineering Club, and that's just a really special group to be a part of. We put together all these events, do all these activities together. It's really great to get to know other people, get to have events. And I think it's just this very special, unspoken connection that you have. And oddly enough, the classes, there are actually more women in the STEM classes here than there were in my high school. So it's not too terrible. Once you get going, it's really not so bad.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. So we have a few minutes left in the session today, and we are going to jump into the Q&A. So a reminder that you can keep asking questions in the stage Q&A for us that we will answer. So I'm just looking over. So one student says that they've started a Women in STEM club at their school. Is there any information or advice that they could share with their club members? Does anyone have any advice for that student?
I'm not sure I have any specific advice, but I just want to say that's so cool that you started that. I love that idea. Good for you for starting that. And I think just highlight how important that community is to have. And that community will continue past that club, with the people you meet in that club, but then also into university that way. And that's really cool.
Danby, thanks. Just looking through. So there's a few questions for Danby that I know that she is getting to. So Danby is at the Vancouver campus. She's part of our Engineering Stories team this year as well. So if you watch our Engineering Stories TikTok and Instagram, you'll definitely get to learn more about her there. Again, I see a few more admissions questions. And those are going to be best answered at our admissions presentation tomorrow at 4:45. So I know there's lots of questions about that. One other question is, was the percentage of other women in engineering a consideration when choosing UBC versus another university. So was that something that any of you looked into when you were choosing what universities to apply to?
I can speak to this a little bit. That was one of the things I looked at when I was looking at universities, is I would go like digging, trying to pull up like their reports about percentage of women. And it wasn't like a deciding factor for me, but I noticed that UBC, I felt like it had higher percentages than a lot of other schools that I had seen. So it was one of those things that definitely made me feel better about choosing UBCO.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I can add to this a bit. I didn't really look at the exact percentages, like the ratio of current students, but I did look into the outreach programs that UBC was doing at the time. Like, they are very proactive in promoting engineering to women and like younger students, like Gearing Up, and I think there's other programs as well. And I specifically noted that when I was looking at the school. And so even if the ratio was kind of low then, I knew that it was going to get more even over the next few years. So that was something I kind of was quite impressed by. So I took that into consideration.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Another question coming from more of a little bit of a student experience aspect, but which of the years of your degree has been the most difficult so far is the question.
I can probably answer. I'm in a mix of second and third year because I'm doing it in 5 years. So it's mostly third year and a few second year courses sprinkled in. I'd say so far this has been my hardest one. I've never had so many assignments due all at once before. So I'm a little overwhelmed right now, but I'd say so far my third year is the most difficult.
I think I might agree with that. I'm kind of in between third and fourth year right now. And I think third year so far has been the trickiest. But it's also hard to tell with like the pandemic messing up second year a little bit. But I think overall of the actual courses, the third year ones have been a little difficult compared to the others.
I'm going to come in and say I am scared for my last year. I'm on co-op for this next year. And so the fourth and final year of the GEO program is quite heavy, and I'm very scared for it. But it'll be fine. But I feel like that'll be my hardest overall.
So when you all do have these tough years that you deal with, what are some of the ways that you kind of overcome it, or that you make sure that you are successful through it?
I would say collaboration's a really big one. There are very few assignments that I do all by myself a lot of time because it really depends on your study methods. For me, I don't do well paying attention at the lecture. I usually learn while I'm doing the assignments. If I can get help explaining it, or sometimes I'll post solutions with the assignments and you're meant to mark it yourself. Those are the things that really help me to understand what I'm doing. So it's really about figuring out what works for you. And I'd also like to add that I don't mean to scare you guys, because I know in high school, my teachers really scared me about university, but it's really not as bad as they made me think it was. It is a lot more tame than they told me it was going to be.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I agree with that. It's not too scary. Like, you have to put in the work, but it's definitely doable. And just like Sydney said, like being able to collaborate with others is hugely helpful for when you have those what feels like a million assignments to do. Having that network is so great, and everyone is so glad to help each other, which is amazing.
Yeah, just same thing, collaboration and working with other people.
Awesome. All right, so we only have a couple of minutes left, and one of the questions that was in here, as well as one of the questions I wanted to ask you all anyways, was just kind of your advice for any of the students that are here thinking about maybe choosing engineering, maybe not sure, maybe choosing UBC, maybe not sure. The question in the Q&A is specifically any life advice for university, but I'm also going to kind of push it a little bit further. And, you know, thinking back to when you were in high school, what sort of advice would you have wanted to hear that would have helped you make that decision?
I think the biggest piece of advice is try and find things that you're genuinely interested in or excited to do, because it's really hard to motivate yourself if you just like aren't feeling it, or if, you know, it's something someone else wants you to do. I find you can motivate yourself to push through those hard times a lot easier and work with others when you're around like-minded people who are interested in the same things, and can help motivate each other and remind each other, oh, we're interested in this. At the end of the day, we want to do this, we want to be here learning this stuff. I think ultimately, and one piece of advice I have just alongside that is, when you choose electives, try and do things you're interested in and not just like easy classes, in quotations easy, because they're not what you're super interested in. You end up falling behind in them. It's much easier to do electives and main courses that you genuinely are interested in and want to learn about. I think that's my biggest piece of advice.
I would say I have two kind of things. One, I say this to someone who loves being in engineering, but I also feel that it's kind of one of those default faculties where it's like, oh, I'm like good at math, but I'm not sure what I want to do, so I'll do engineering. I'd say, maybe I'll absolutely love engineering, but I think it's something you should definitely look into more specifically. If it's just something because it just seems like the right direction you want to go, there's a lot of things that really relate well to engineering that you might be better suited for. It might be something you want to try out. And then if you feel like you don't like it, don't be afraid to switch out of it or switch into it if you're in something else and you think you might be better suited towards engineering. And also, I'd like to say, as I'm taking mine in 5 years, that don't be afraid to stretch out your degree. If it's not any less important if you take 4 or 6 years or a few extra years to get your degree done. What's important is that you're taking care of yourself. You're taking as much time as you need in order to get it finished.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would definitely echo what Sydney said about stretching out your degree a little bit. I did my first year taking the full course load, and it was doable, but it was definitely intense. And second year on, I decided to take one less course each term. And I really like that just because I'm able to get more involved with extracurriculars and stuff like that, which are just as valuable as courses. And you can get lots of meaningful experience outside of class as well that really complements your classwork. So I think that's really important. And I think just one other small piece of advice I have is don't take it too seriously. University is really fun. And I think choosing where you want to go is a very, very stressful process. But just know that if you make what in your mind you think could be the wrong decision, it's not going to be a wrong decision. It might change what you do, but just choosing one thing over another isn't going to drastically destroy your life or anything, even if you find out it's not for you. So don't worry too much about your decision that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much to all of you for joining this evening. I really appreciate you being here and being part of this event. I could not do this without students like you who are spending your Thursday evenings to come and share your experiences with our students that are thinking about joining the community in the future. So thank you all. Huge thank you to all of you for being here. And thank you to all of our panelists that have been here tonight and our presenters. So thanks for joining this evening. I hope to see many of you back tomorrow and again on Saturday as well. Thank you, everyone.